Let's talk about your first manuscript. I'm Karen Beery with Right Now Editing, where we turn good manuscripts into great books.
And I'm Peg Thomas, multi-award winning author and editor, and we are two editors for 5 whole minutes.
So I'm going to start that 5 minute timer. So it is July 1st. We're coming into the 4th of July. Peg and I were talking about patriotic books. I don't like, I can't
She's so
necessarily
contemporary.
can't think of one that I've read that was written around. I'm sure I have. I'm sure I have. But because we spiral, we got to talking about our first manuscripts because I recently picked up a book. I have a sister who loves colonial American history. So of
I love
course I
her
bought her
sister.
yeah. So I bought her one of Peg's books. Now, Peg, what is the title of that book?
Freedom's Price.
Is it the first book you ever had published?
No, it's not.
What try to do the math. What number book was it that was published?
I gotta do math.
I'm putting you on the spot here
Um,
because we're two editors
well,
for
let's go
five
with
minutes.
novel. It's my seventh novel. I had
Seven.
six novellas published prior to that, so that would make it my 13th book, but my seventh novel. Yes.
Okay, so this is for all of our unpublished, pre-published, wannabe published author writer friends out there. Peg's first manuscript is her 13th published book.
Yeah. And it
So,
needed a lot of work because it was really stinko when I went back to look at. I loved the story. I wanted to get the story out. Um, but oh yeah, it needed a lot of work. And I gotta tell you, I would not recommend people to do that. It's easier to write another book than to go back and fix one that you wrote years ago when you weren't a very good writer.
well, and I
Now,
some
and
go
Freedom's
ahead.
Price did well. Freedom's Price was a finalist in the SALA Awards. I think it took second place in the SALAs, so it did well. But it took me, I don't know, months to get it cleaned up enough to be published.
And so I have a similar story because I tell people that my first book published was my second manuscript, but that's not entirely true. My first manuscript, love the characters, love the idea. It is a hot mess. My second manuscript, I started writing it, but then I started studying writing and I realized it was beyond repair. So it was about 45,000 words long. The only thing I kept was the opening scene. And so I started writing again. And then I realized I'm making all of these mistakes because I kept learning everything. But I loved the setting and I loved the characters. So I kept that first scene and I threw out about 50,000 words. So even though it was technically the second group of characters, it was the fourth manuscript I'd ever written before I got a contract with a small publisher. So we're sharing this with you today because we want to encourage you before the holiday season that if you're still working on your first manuscript and you're not getting any traction, if publishers aren't saying yes, if agents aren't saying yes, it's okay to move on and do something else.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you should. You can spend a lifetime tweaking that one manuscript, and it's so much better to just move on and write the next one. And if you have a lot of patience, you can come back to that first one later and clean it up and you can make it good. But it is a lot of work. Like I said, I'm not yeah. I loved the story and so I put the time into it. But it is easier to just write another book.
Like I said, I love my first manuscript. It was the first one I ever wrote. I wrote 80,000 words in 6 weeks. I was so happy. I was so sure that that was going to be my writing path for the rest of my life. Ah, but I don't know if I'm willing to put that much work into it. So I know it's a story. It's the story of my heart, but it might just be the story on my laptop. So That's it. Just this week. It's like I said, coming into the holidays. We don't want to overwhelm you with too much information. I'm getting
No, we
ready.
just want to encourage you.
Yeah, just
Keep
to
writing,
encourage you.
keep striving,
Yeah,
find that next story, move on, and keep the old one in a file. You may
yeah.
come back to it.
You never know. It might just sit there like mine, or it might be published like Peg's. But come back next week because next week we start talking writing again, and we've got some really good topics coming up. So happy 4th of July, everyone.
Happy 4th of July. See you next week.
Bye.